Hi, my name is Atiya. Some of you may know me, however, most of you probably do not. But I am the founder of the Marriage Tree, and I, along with my husband Ingram, help men, women, and couples discover their own truth for a better marriage and relationship. And I want you to notice that I said discover your own truth for a better marriage and relationship. I wanted to take the time to share my story because as I look back at the many things that I've posted and written, I realized that I hadn't told it. And so today I want to do just that. But I'm twice divorced. And in case you didn't get that, yes, I have been married and divorced twice. And for those of you who might be listening and questioning my qualification with being a marriage strategist or one committed to helping others in this area, your judgments of me is irrelevant, as I have the courage to obey my call, and it matters not to me whether you think me to be credible or not. But for others, you heard it from the horse's mouth. I am twice divorced. I am a twice divorced woman, but let me tell you what I've learned from both of those experiences. From the first one, I learned to be true to who I am. I learned that I don't have to apologize for being me or ever be afraid to speak my truth. I learned that I don't have to be ashamed of my past or my pain, and that I can stand in my power and on my incredible possibilities. I learned that I do have favor, and favor ain't always fair. I learned that I don't have to shrink for someone to accept me and love me for fear of being alone. I learned that when I'm called to do something, I just have to step out on faith, and as my mama used to say, just have the faith of the grain of a mustard seed and move those mountains, even if you have to do it alone. Because in truth, I'm never alone. I learned to step outside my comfort zone because I do not do the world any favors by playing small, and I certainly don't do my relationship well because when I do, I give others permission to treat me small. I learned that I don't have to hide my light because I'm sharing space with someone else. I learned that being extraordinary is not based on gender, and as a woman, I can have my cake and eat it too. But I had to step back a minute to even see what kind of cake I really like and not just keep eating what someone else was serving me. From the second one, I learned to accept nothing less than what I deserve. And the truth is, I do deserve the best. And yes, I am high maintenance, and I'm not ashamed of that, nor do I apologize for it. I'm not common, therefore you can't handle me like I am. I learned to hold myself accountable for the choices I make and to take responsibility for my success on all levels. I learned that being humble does not mean being a sacrificial lamb, and that being grateful does not mean accepting anything that comes my way. I learned to send stuff back when it ain't right or not what I ordered. I don't have to accept abuse or an unhealthy relationship. I learned that yes, mistakes happen, but mistakes do not have to exist. I learned that I can turn my disappointment into opportunity. But overall, I learned that I don't have to be somebody's second or third choice. I wanted and had a right to be the first choice. But in order for that to be my reality, I had to lose my disposition in order to take my rightful position. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not about running from relationship to relationship or marriage to marriage. It's about making the best decision at the jump street and coming to the table with the right intentions. Because if your intentions aren't right, the relationship's not going to be right either. See, the first time I got married, I wanted to get out of my mama's house. I vowed that I was not moving back home, and no matter how many times my mother let me know that it was okay to move back, the fear of being alone and the fear of raising children on my own kept me in a 16-year marriage. Now, don't get me wrong, my children's father is a good man, but being a good man or a good woman does not mean that they are good for you. And one of the most difficult things I was confronted with was the decision to give myself a chance. Because for several years I stayed to give my children a chance to not be in a single parent household like I was in. But as my mother was dying, I looked at her and thought to myself, I don't want any regrets. And as she was dying, she taught me how to live. And her incredible courage in her dying taught me how to be courageous in my living and to follow my dreams even in the face of fear. So when I told her that I was getting a divorce, she said, "What took you so long?" Now the unadulterated truth, y'all, was fear. It was fear. My mother helped me to face my fear. My divorce was final 1 week, and exactly 1 week later, my mother succumbed to breast cancer. Now, the second time I got married, I just wanted to be okay. My mother told me to let him help you. She didn't say marry him. She said, let him help you. And he helped me all right. He helped me to let go. He helped me to be emotionally stronger. He taught me the power of a praying woman. And believe me when I say this, it took a lot of strength and a lot of prayers to get through that situation. I literally jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire. But again, my intentions. I did not want to deal with anything. My mother had died. I was divorced. The company I worked with closed their offices in the city that I was in, and I lost my job. It was just too much. It was too much at the time. I just wanted to be okay. And I was like Hakuna Matata. And if you didn't see The Lion King, it means no worries. I took a vacation from responsibility. And as a result, I found myself married to irresponsibility for 4.5 years. I lost my car, my property, the few material things I had amassed. I ended up homeless with a, quote, man, y'all. With a husband who still didn't want me to work. He didn't even want me to write. I had to hide to finish my first book, From Ordinary to Extraordinary. There were times in that marriage I slept in my van, washed up in laundromats, stayed in hotels and people's houses and empty houses. Oh, they were big, beautiful houses now. Incredible. And I saw the possibility. But at that moment, I was walking through my pain. But through it all, through every experience, I found myself. I came full circle. And this 20+ year detour, no matter how bumpy of a ride it was, gave me the greatest lesson of all. I have the power to change any circumstance in my life that does not serve me well. And as long as I am willing, and as long as I believe it is possible, it can be my reality. So I gave myself a fresh start. I gave myself a chance, and today, as a result of it, I am married to an incredible man who accepts me for who I am and worked hard to get me too. See, ever since I was a little girl, I have always believed in the fairy tale. I felt like the Cinderella, and I just knew that my prince would find me. I wanted so bad to get to the fairy tale life. I did not want years and years to pass and be unmarried like my mother, who believed that all men were dogs. I didn't believe that. I couldn't believe that because if I did, I could not experience my happily ever after. So as I became older and a little wiser, I realized that my mother was speaking out of her pain. She used to say, "I worship the ground your father walked on." She never got over the pain of my father marrying someone else when she was 9 months pregnant with me. When my mother gave birth to me, do you not think she was thinking about that? Then here I come, a romantic at heart, that came from a yearning in my mother's heart to love and be loved like she never knew she deserved to be loved. Now, my mother passed away in 2005, never experiencing married life. And one of her greatest desires was to wear a diamond ring on her left ring finger. So on her 50th birthday, I brought one for her, a wedding ring. I wanted her to know that she was worth it. And 6 years later, she transitioned. Now, I did not know until a few years after my mother's passing that my father, when he resurfaced when I was in my mid to late teens, asked my mother to marry him. At that point, she didn't believe it would have worked. I also learned that there was a man that my mother would have said yes to if he had asked. The sad part is he did ask her, but she didn't know that his proposal was a marriage proposal because his way of broaching the subject was, "Will you have my baby?" And my mother, being a single parent for several years, raising 2 daughters on her own with no support whatsoever from her father or any other man, wasn't interested in having another child out of wedlock. The truth is, he wanted her to be his wife, but she thought that he only wanted a baby. He didn't communicate clearly to where she could understand, because while he meant marriage in his heart and mind, having a baby did not equate to marriage to her, because she had already had 2 children and was not married. And my mother, like many other women, don't bring up the subject of marriage. Some are afraid to use the word for fear of running a man away. And some men don't make it plain for fear of being rejected and think that people should be able to read their mind. As a result, you have 2 people who want to be together but don't know how to, or are afraid to be transparent and say exactly what they want and expect. So consequently, I grew up wondering, why didn't anyone want my mother? My father was not only not there for my mother, but he was not there for my sister and me. And that wasn't easy for us. But like a lot of black women do, they make it look easy. My mother was strong. She was independent. She didn't need a man, or so one would think. She was a woman of impeccable character and integrity. She was smart and was there for everybody else. But as I look back, I wonder if she really had the chance to enjoy life, what more would she have done? Now I know the answer to that question. I even knew that answer as a child. So ironically, I was born to help people believe and know that the fairy tale was possible. The happily ever after is possible. And no matter how things appear to be, that don't make it so. My mother was not married, and for this reason, I did not want to grow up and be like her, because to be like her meant to be alone. It wasn't until I got older that I understood that my mother was not alone because no one wanted her. Her heart was not healed from the pain surrounding her relationship with my father. While I was determined not to be alone, little did I know that I was destined to deliver a message of hope, a message of possibility, a message of profound love, a message of holy matrimony. And up until a few years ago, I was in love with the idea of being in love. And like many of you, I've kissed a few frogs. But I want to let you in on a big secret. Regardless as to what the statistics say about first time, second time, or even third time marriages, and regardless as to what they say about fewer and fewer people getting married, the happily ever after is possible. But I realized that I could turn the frog into a prince, I realized that I could not turn the frog into a prince until I put on my prince's power. And you know what? It starts with 3 things: forgiveness, belief in the possibility, and knowing that you deserve it and are worthy of it. My mother didn't get that memo. But I did, because the desire in her heart became a part of my genetic makeup, and no matter how hopeless the situation appeared to be, I knew that I could have a happy and healthy marriage regardless as to what anybody said, and regardless as to how many times they told me I was not living in reality. No matter how many talked about there was no good men out there, I was not buying into the lie. That was not my truth, and I was not going to live my life in someone else's reality. My reality was that I was the princess that was going to have my fairy tale, and my prince was going to find me, and when he did, I was going to be ready. Now the truth is, I cannot stand in my mother's pain, nor can I even stand in mine. Through 2 divorces, I've learned to stand in my power, be unapologetically me, and live life on my own terms, and have the kind of relationship I desire on my own terms. I don't have to sacrifice my own happiness to be with someone, and I sure in the hell don't have to lower my own self-worth and integrity to be with someone who is not even qualified of having my time. See, when I stopped trying to live someone else's story and get back to writing mine, I left that detour and got back to the business of doing and being Atiya. A happy and healthy marriage for me is not an option, it's a priority. And as my mother used to say, but I have to clean it up a little bit now, pee or get off the pot. If you are going to do the relationship and marriage thing, do it right. Stop shrinking so you can be with someone because you don't have to. See, I said from young I was going to save myself for my husband. And when I got back on my main road of life, I recommitted to that. And let me tell you, I am worth waiting for. I am worth traveling thousands of miles to find. I have a purpose. And if the one looking for me didn't have the right code, he wasn't getting in. When my husband manifested himself, I took him to court. I dated with a purpose, and that was no longer up for negotiation. So what I'm saying to you is this. If you're tired of the same old story, then write a new one. But remember in all your writing, remember forgiveness, belief in the possibility, knowing that you deserve it and are worthy of it. And regardless as to what anyone says to you, your fairy tale is possible. So stand in your power and your passion and write your incredible love story. I love you. I want love for you. And I really appreciate you for listening. And I hope this has helped in some way or measure. But do you. And don't be afraid to do you. Have the courage to obey your call and stand in your power. Have a good day.